Hey, what's going on, guys? Chris Chavez here with Phandroid.com, messing around with the Sony Xperia X line. This is actually the Sony Xperia X. They announced their new X line today, which includes the Sony Xperia XA, which is a super mid-range phone. They all look very, very similar. And then there's also the Sony Xperia X Performance, which they have over here, but it's kind of in hands-off mode. You're not allowed to touch it. It's a big sign over there. This is the mid-range, I guess, but I guess calling it mid-range would be doing it a disservice, because this is pretty high up there as far as mid-range devices are concerned. It's got a 5-inch 1080p display, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's a Sony Triluminous IPS, and it's wonderful looking. Snapdragon 650 processor on the inside. Don't get it confused with the Snapdragon 615, which is horribly underpowered and probably one of the worst mobile processors to ever come out. This is the 650, which is more comparable to perhaps maybe like a Snapdragon 808 from last year, which again is still fully capable. And in a mid-range device like this with a 1080p display, it absolutely flies through just about anything. Super duper quick, super responsive, and wonderful. It's got 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes internal storage, micro SD card slot for up to 200 gigabytes. Take it around the sides. The sides are aluminum, the back is aluminum as well. Very premium finish. You'll notice it has a 23 megapixel camera up there on the rear, and then on the front it's got a 13 megapixel camera, which is pretty darn impressive. Sony says it has something they call predictive autofocus. It's a new feature that's only available on the X and the X Performance. And they have a little demo station where you can try it out. I might give that a whirl later. It pretty much just sounds like, I forget what they call that, object tracking. It's got a 2,620 milliamp hour battery, so not the biggest battery, but it does have this pretty cool feature that Sony calls Canovo adaptive charging, which basically guarantees the life of the battery is pretty much double from what you would get at a normal smartphone. So a normal smartphone, after a year or so, your battery life might be getting a little bit lower, and that's just because of the natural wear and tear from charging your phone. Whatever they have, the technology in this phone, it's supposed to last about twice as long. This is the X and the X Performance. Both have a fingerprint sensor here, which you can see on the side. And they're all roughly around the same size, so they all have 5-inch displays. The low-end XA has a 720p, this one has a 1080, and then the X Performance also has a 1080. The only difference really between the X and the X Performance is the X Performance is packing a Snapdragon 820 processor, which is absolutely insane, especially for a tiny little phone, which is supposed to be, I guess, more affordable, and then a 1080p display. Nuts. I mean, I can't even imagine. I wish they would actually let you mess around with them, but they're kind of hands off right now. So that's just a quick look at the new Sony Xperia X, the new X line here at Mobile World Congress with Phandroid.com. I'm Chris Chavez. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.